Sinclair Broadcast Group, connecting people with content everywhere.
Ahead on America This Week, United We Stand.
No true supporter of mine could ever threaten or harass their fellow Americans.
And we know that the President of the United States incited this insurrection, this armed rebellion against our common country.
The House faces a historic second impeachment of President Trump.
Our country, unfortunately, is deeply divided, and we need to try to bring down the temperature.
Missouri Congressman Jason Smith is here.
Don't want to be in a situation like Southern California where we are rationing oxygen and have run out of hospital beds.
Plus, pandemic expert Dr. Dena Grayson is back to discuss updates to the vaccine rollout. And you won't want to miss the fiery debate with our panel. That's right now in America This Week, United We Stand. Welcome to America This Week, United We Stand. I'm Eric Bolling. For months now, CEOs of big tech companies have testified on Capitol Hill about their policies. Democrats say the companies may be too big and too powerful, and many Republicans believe big tech is biased against conservatives. In the past week alone, Twitter and Facebook banished President Trump from their platforms, and Amazon and Apple denied service to Parler. Has the long-running debate finally reached its breaking point? Sinclair national correspondent Christine Frizzell takes a look.
5, 6, 7, 8. America was never great.
In the United States of America, the marketplace of ideas sometimes looks like this.
Not my president! Not my president!
While at times uncomfortable, free expression and debate, after all, lie at the foundation of who we are. But much of that debate has moved from here to here, where limits of free speech are being tested following the riot at the U.S. Capitol and the decision by Twitter and Facebook to permanently ban President Trump. Cumulus Media has threatened to fire on-air personalities who continue to suggest the election was stolen from the president. And the app Parler, often used by many of the president's supporters, also now offline.
What this is really about, because it's not about holding everybody to account equally. It's about giving preferential treatment to certain people and kind of taking it out on others.
His concerns echo what Republicans have been warning about for months.
No corporation should run America, and definitely not big tech.
I'll just cut to the chase. Big tech's out to get conservatives.
But many believe big tech should be doing even more, since, as we saw last week, speech has the power to mobilize a mob.
Flat out, made up, insightful, hateful things built on fraud, fiction, and lies cannot be just greenlit. That is the equivalent of crying fire in a crowded theater.
Just a reminder, the First Amendment of the Constitution, etched in the wall here, deals only with the government's inability to regulate speech. So while there's no question that what these companies did was legal, there's going to be a lot of questions moving forward about whether or not it was right. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
Missouri Congressman Jason Smith was inside the Capitol as the rioters broke in. Congressman, thank you for being here. Glad you're okay. However, now your colleague, Cori Bush, is calling for your expulsion, along with others, for objecting to the certification of the election results. And that's on top of a second impeachment. Where do we go from here?
It's unfortunate. It's reckless to think that a member of Congress believes that it's okay to file a piece of legislation that will expel a member of Congress because they disagree with how they voted. That is un-American. That's really reckless, and that's irresponsible. Right now, what's going on the floor of the People's House is only raising the temperature that's out there right now. Our country, unfortunately, is deeply divided, and we need to try to bring down the temperature. But a reckless impeachment that is 7 days from the date that a new president will be sworn into office is ridiculous. Think about this. If they do impeach the president today, the articles of impeachment at the earliest will not go to the United States Senate to just about hours after Joe Biden becomes president. So at that point, Trump will already be out of office. And if they start with that impeachment, you're going to see the first several weeks of a Biden presidency preoccupied by trying to impeach and remove a president who is at his resort in Florida. This is not about the will of the American people. This is definitely politics before people. We need to get back to putting people before politics in the people's house.
Congressman, this week we've just learned that Liz Cheney, who's number 3 Republican in the House, it looks like the Republican Congress is trying to remove her from Republican leadership for her willingness to impeach President Trump. Your thoughts on Congresswoman Liz Cheney?
You know, she's definitely going to have to look in the mirror and decide what's best for this conference. She definitely is out of step with the majority of the Republicans in the conference. And of course, conference chair is the position that leads the communications for the House Republicans. And to be out of step on such an important issue for our conference, I think Liz Cheney is definitely going to have to look deep inside of her heart to decide if she wants to continue where she's at.
Interesting. One of the other pushbacks that's going on with the group that voted to hold off on the Joe Biden being declared the winner of the race of the election is a pushback by donors and maybe even voters. Are you concerned at all about your reelection, given what we've seen in the last 8 days since the Capitol Hill protests, riots?
I'm concerned to make sure that I'm representing the people of Southeast Missouri. And the people of Southeast Missouri voted by tens of thousands for the policies that was pushed forward by this current administration. And they have a lot of concerns about what's been going on. And I feel like that I've been aligned in how I've been voting to represent the people in Southeast Missouri to make sure that their voices are heard. Because in the people's house, the people's representative should be speaking loud and clear, not worried about what big corporations or big tech is wanting out of their government. The only people that matter to make sure we have an efficient government is the people that are your bosses. And I have 752,000 of those bosses in Southeast Missouri.
So very quickly, about half a minute or so, sir, have you heard from your constituents since that January 5th vote?
Absolutely. I've been home the last couple days until Speaker Pelosi brought us back up here for this reckless impeachment. And I can tell you the people of Southeast Missouri feels like this country needs to unite, that we need to stop dividing, and that we need to get along. What happened on the attacks of the Capitol was an attack on the people's house, and that was unacceptable, and they find it to be completely atrocious. But they also believe that the hate that has been boiling out of Speaker Pelosi and the House Democrats for the last 4 years has helped enrage this. My folks have been saying, if Joe Biden wants to unite this country, he needs to step up and call for this impeachment to end so that he can actually work for the American people. That's what my constituents are calling for. If he truly wants to unite, he needs to stand up and lead and tell Schumer and Pelosi to back down to unite this country.
Okay. We're going to have to leave it there. Congressman Smith, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Could your employer make the COVID-19 vaccine mandatory? That answer next.
The National Desk covers America's news now.
Live across America with breaking news at the Live Desk. Live tracking major weather events now.
3 inches per hour live. Comprehensive pandemic coverage now. Turn to the National Desk every weekday morning to understand America's news now.
As more COVID-19 vaccines become available, those who choose not to get it are wondering if an employer can make it mandatory. WKRC's medical reporter Liz Bonus has more.
Employment attorneys now say it is one of the top questions they are getting asked. If I don't choose to get the vaccine, can my employer make it mandatory to return to work?
Well, it's very complicated. The short answer is that yes, employers may require employees to get vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccine.
For healthcare workers, perhaps nursing home workers or others, those who don't get the COVID-19 vaccine may be a real threat or danger to those around them. That's the basis employment attorney Faith Whitaker says your workplace can use to require the COVID-19 vaccine.
But there needs to be some exceptions for medical or religion.
That said, however, if most people step up, this might never be mandatory. However, in early surveys so far, many states report what Ohio has found.
And what we've found is, for example, the nursing homes. We're seeing only about 40% of the people who work in nursing homes are taking the vaccine.
But just because the vaccine can be mandatory, right now business advisors, even for medical personnel, say that doesn't mean it should. You see, the FDA has only given emergency use authorization for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. So these leaders admit,
when there's clear evidence and months of data collection to demonstrate that this is a safe vaccine, in future periods of time and maybe even in future years, it may become mandatory. It depends.
In the meantime, those advising employers say education and perhaps a few other steps might be a better way to get more people to get the COVID-19 vaccine.
For employers, they need to have thorough assistance from counsel and advice from counsel to understand their risks and then also see whether or not it makes sense operationally to require that. And maybe if they don't require it, they could provide incentives for encouraging it.
Now, this is likely going to be an ongoing legal debate. The hope, of course, is that enough of us will step up to get it that are comfortable so we get herd immunity. That means about 70% of us would have to be vaccinated, which does mean we still have a ways to go. And medical reporter Liz Bonus will throw it back to you.
Thank you to Liz Bonus and WKRC for that story. This week, New York announced it will now offer COVID-19 vaccines to a wider group of residents. That's because medical providers threw out unused doses because of the state's strict guidelines. I'm not sure that's exactly right, but let's discuss it with pandemic expert Dr. Dena Grayson. I hope it's that and it's not people aren't showing up to be vaccinated. Dr. Grayson, before we get to that, I have a question for you. Something that struck me, it blew me out of the water. Governor Cuomo from New York just says that all of a sudden now he says, we simply can't stay closed. We must reopen the economy. That I've heard the exact opposite from that guy for the better part of 11 months and Democrats.
Well, no, really, Eric, what he was saying is that we need to open the economy. He's right. However, we are in the midst of this pandemic. So, right now, as much as we very much would love to reopen, I think we all know that it's very challenging. Now, one of the things that he is trying to use is this rapid testing, which appeared to be helpful for the Buffalo Bills playoff game. That has not been implemented widely in the United States. This is something, as you know, I've been championing for quite some time. I know, you would be a big fan of this as well, where you have these rapid turnaround, 15-minute tests. And it can allow on certain, areas for folks maybe potentially to get together. Again, though, we still are in the midst of this deadly pandemic. We have this new strain, new variant circulating now that's even more contagious. So while I, along with everybody, want the economy to reopen, we also don't want to be in a situation like Southern California where we are rationing oxygen and have run out of hospital beds. So I think it's going to be a very, very careful balance.
It sounds like, we've been doing this for a long time. I appreciate you and I respect you, but it sounds like you're talking out both sides of your mouth here because I've listened to Democrats say, I've listened to California governors say, New York governors say, stay closed. I hear Fauci say, stay closed, keep the economy closed, don't get together, cancel Christmas. Now all of a sudden, we can't. The governor's saying we simply can't stay closed. It's a very fast about face, and it's certainly not because we are reaching herd immunity or being vaccinated, including in New York.
Well, I do not, again, Eric, as I said, I don't advocate opening now. I think it's too early. I think that hopefully as we come through the end of this flu season, then we can look at that. I mean, we have to go by the data, and right now New York is on fire with cases. As I just said, we don't want to end up in a situation like Southern California where oxygen.
So the governor is wrong. The governor We can agree, Dr. Grayson Bolling, that the governor is out of his mind, hypocritical, and wrong.
I am not going to say that, Eric, because I don't know that he was saying we're going to reopen today. Okay, so that would not be the appropriate thing to do. I don't think that is the right thing to do, to reopen today. And I did not see anything in his statement about specifically, hey, we're going to reopen today. Again, we all agree we need to reopen. We want to reopen.
His tweet.
There is...
Team, can you put the tweet back up? He's saying we simply cannot stay closed. That sounds like he means let's reopen, Dr. Gray. I mean, come on. Let's hold him accountable as well. It can't just be Republican orange guy bad, Democrat okay, and cut slack to a New York governor who, by the way, is not vaccinating his people.
But we must do it smartly and safely. That was the end of his tweet. So if there's a way to do it, and he's going to be having rapid testing stations everywhere, which is something I've been advocating for. More testing, more testing, more testing, more testing. This is something I have been saying, and it's not doublespeak, Eric. We've talked about this for months. The only way you can reopen is you have to be testing, and retesting. And I've been advocating this since February for almost a year. So that is a smart thing. We need the rapid test. If that can be implemented and done in a way, then you can start talking about doing that. That's what he's talking about, smartly and safely.
Fair enough. It doesn't seem like that was the nature of that tweet, but okay, we'll let it go right there. Very quickly, I only have about 20 seconds or so. What is wrong? Why aren't people getting vaccinated? Quickly, if you can.
Boy, that's a complicated, unfortunately, question, Eric. People are getting vaccinated. It's a challenge, for example, to even get the appointments. They've been holding back some of the vaccinations to make sure that people get the second dose. Now they're starting to stop doing that, which raises concerns about the timing of that second dose and whether or not vaccines will be available. But people have been getting vaccinated, but the rollout has been very slow, frankly, because the federal government has not been coordinating this.
Wow, you threw that one right at the end. I ran out of time, but federal government's not supposed to coordinate. The way I understood it was
they
supposed
should
to provide it so that the governors could coordinate it. They all wanted to do it on their own. Open the economy, close economy, vaccine, don't vaccine, mandate, don't mandate. They wanted it. Now it's in their lap. And guess what? It turns out it's a lot harder than anyone thought it was going to be. Got to leave it right there, Dr. Dena Grayson. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Ahead on America This Week, United We Stand, a historic second impeachment. Our panel weighs in next. And hundreds of you called in after the attack on the Capitol to let me know your thoughts. Keep calling toll-free 888-601-0032. Many of you were disappointed and saddened to see what happened, and others rallied behind Democrats.
I'm sick of Donald Trump, who is Putin's puppet, tearing this country apart. We have a great country, and we are going to move forward with Biden and Harris to build back America better.
Biden won fair and square. It don't hurt to lose an election. When Hillary lost, nobody else went up to the Capitol and did like that.
People say we should respect the Capitol building. No, we should respect the people in the building who are sent there to represent us all. So when they go off on their personal agenda and act like mini gods, this is what happens.
The emperor has no clothes.
Just saw the special report, the president's statement. I think it's a good thing that he called for no violence, although I have questions whether he's doing that sincerely or just covering his butt.
I'd want to thank you, Eric, for speaking the truth on your station, and I'll only listen to the station, the programs that speaks the truth. I do not watch the other news no more.
That's my goal. Each and every week, hold both sides accountable. Now, here's that number again, 888-601-0032, toll free, or follow me on Twitter at Eric Bolling, and we'll make sure they hear you too. With riots and impeachments dominating the news cycle, these are certainly crazy times, folks. So this next bit of information may actually be great timing. I'm launching a cool new podcast with my friend, Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre. We're going to talk about everything from football to politics to business to culture. Who's the best quarterback in the NFL playoffs? Is it Brady, Breeze, Mahomes, or Rodgers? Or how is a post-Trump America going to look? Or what's up with Armie Hammer? We'll talk it all out. It's going to be uncensored and off the hook. I can guarantee that. It's called Bowling with Favre, and we launch at the end of the month on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Introducing the National Desk News. Comprehensive morning news from experts.
So if somebody has an infectious disease, they go in there, that
America's News Now.
The wind is going faster than we are.
Immediate.
We can distribute this worldwide, globally, very quickly.
Impactful.
Workers are not expendable.
Investigative news now.
They were counting on no one finding out what they were doing.
Choose the National Desk every morning to understand America's news now.
Right there, you see it come right out.
Live across America with breaking news at the Live Desk.
Nearly 4,000 National Desk journalists covering America. Turn to the National Desk every weekday morning to understand America's news now.
This week, the House introduced articles of impeachment against President Trump. However, some Republican lawmakers worry that would only increase the division in the country. Let's hear from both sides of the aisle here, going head-to-head. Sinclair political commentator Amisha Cross and former governor of Maryland, Bob Ehrlich. Before you get into it, let's take a listen to Joe Manchin. This man will likely be the most powerful, influential man in the Senate going forward. Take a listen.
They know the votes aren't there. You would think that they would do that. I think this is so ill-advised for Joe Biden to be coming in, trying to heal the country, trying to be the president of all the people when we're going to be so divided and fighting again.
So, Bob, you think Manchin's right on this?
I do. And I think, by the way, Eric, I would say he's not likely the most important senator or the most relevant voice. He is the most relevant voice. I would argue he's one of the most powerful people in the world today, because he represents, of course, the former Democratic Party, the party that actually welcomed moderates and sometimes even conservatives. He's sort of the last stand with regard to that party. And in a 50-50 Senate, he has enormous power and enormous influence over the Biden agenda, whether it passes or it fails.
Amisha, very importantly, so Joe Manchin will be the 50th Democrat vote, likely, but he has a tendency, not necessarily he caucuses with the Democrats, but he'll vote sometimes on Republican issues, which means that would flip the Senate, whatever he goes with the Republicans, that the Republicans hold. So here you listen to a guy who is the most powerful, as Bob points out, maybe in the world, powerful senator, saying it's not time to impeach President Trump. Your thoughts?
I listened to a guy in Joe Manchin who is representing Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin understands that the district he represents in West Virginia is largely one that is of Trump acolytes and those who will wave the MAGA flag over and over again. His greatest priority is re-election. He recognizes who his constituents are. Joe Manchin is not speaking for Democrats. He's not speaking for the majority of America. He's speaking for a group of West Virginians who believe in all the conspiracy theories pushed by Trump. And I think that what we've seen from some of the polling from organizations like the Anti-Defamation League, 75% of Americans want to see something happen. They want to see a level of punishment given to this president based on his actions, because quite frankly, what we saw was not only historic, it was detrimental to the fabric of our democracy. And I think that Joe Manchin here, again, is trying to save himself as it relates to re-election. This has absolutely nothing to do with the base. This has absolutely nothing to do with Democrats. This has absolutely nothing to do with the progress of this nation. This is Joe Manchin trying to save
Amisha, Except, Amisha, he is that 50th vote that would turn the vote over to Kamala Harris to make the final decider vote, which typically should Bob Ehrlich should give the whatever the issue is, whatever the vote is, whatever the cause is, whatever the law is, whatever the article is, should give it to the Democrats. But Manchin is by no means a guaranteed vote for Democrats. Am I right?
That's a classic answer you just heard. Let's degrade the people of West Virginia. That's exactly what you just heard. Let's degrade the deplorables. Let's degrade the people who aren't on the left. Let's degrade the people who aren't progressive. That answer was just classic. And let's degrade, by the way, Joe Manchin in the process. Joe Manchin represents, again, a very small island that used to be a dominant island, in fact, in the Democratic Party. He's representing his constituents. It's not a district, it's a state. He's representing the majority of the wishes of the folks of West Virginia, the folks who put him in office. So to degrade him, to degrade his philosophical orientation, to degrade his statement, which I think made a great deal of sense, and I think it's typical of what you've seen from the progressive left over the last 4 years.
All right, allow me to give Amisha a final thought on that. There's some hefty accusations there rolling. Go ahead. Final thought, Amisha, about 30 seconds.
Joe Manchin represents a red state. Joe Manchin wants to save his seat. Joe Manchin does not want to be challenged. And at this point, he's going to do and say whatever he has to ensure his own safety. Again, Democrats are doing what they need to do. This impeachment should follow through. And I look forward to seeing Donald Trump finally face the music for his actions.
All right, we're going to leave it right there. Amisha Cross from the left and from the right, former governor of Maryland, Bob Ehrlich. Thank you both for your time.
Pleasure.
Set your DVR so you never miss an episode of America This Week, United We Stand. Go to facebook.com/America Bolling, all one word, to find out where we air in your city. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. So if you miss a show or want to rewatch an interview, you can see them all right there.
The National Desk covers America's news now.
Live across America with breaking news at the Live Desk. Live tracking major weather events now.
3 inches per hour live. Comprehensive pandemic coverage now. Turn to the National Desk every weekday morning to understand America's news now.
Thanks again for joining me for another episode of America This Week, United We Stand. The show name feels a bit ironic, given that America today feels more divided than ever. Political polarization is splitting families and friends. America is wounded. We need time to heal, but we will survive. We are Americans, and we don't give up. I'm not sure what to say to bring us together, but I sure hope we find out soon. Have a good night, and be safe, and I'll see you next week.